Well, hello there, folks. How's it going today? Hope everybody's doing really good. Today, we are taking a look at a 1986 Charvel Model 4. This is a really neat guitar. You guys that know what these are can probably attest to it too. They're a fun guitar to play. It does have the Kayla Flyer trim system, which a lot of guys weren't a big fan of those. I kind of get it, but it does work and function. I did have to loosen up the rolls. Some of them were stuck. And the only issue with it now is this. The volume has to be all the way on 10 to make sound and function. The guitar does function. Everything works great. But if you roll that volume off 10 at all, it just makes a super high-pitched squealing sound through the amplifier. So we're going to have to take a peek at it. Excuse me. I've already loosened all the hardware up on the top side, so let's flip it over and see what we got. Okay, so get the golf club out. Alright, so I did replace this switch here probably a year or two ago. Okay, then you have two more toggle switches right here. Those are the originals, and what those do is just turn the pickups on and off. Okay, there is a pot here which I think is for that. I think it's kind of like a blender boost circuit, so that's in between the circuit board and the jack. That's my guess. I really can't remember. It's been a long time since I've messed with this. Okay, so there's another pot down in here, and you can see it's got a capacitor hooked to it. So that tells me that's the tone. And here we go. Lo and behold, the volume pot, which is soldered directly to a circuit board. Not a great design by any means, but they were experimenting. So, as you can see, we have a few capacitors here on this little circuit board, a bunch of resistors, and this little black thing with the LF442CN, that's an op amp. So basically what this is a boost. It's almost similar to what you'd have in a pedal, and that's what the op amp's for. So the pot feels really bad. It sticks. It's got some issues. We did take a peek at all the soldering joints here. They are dusty, but I don't see any that are bad. That one looked a little suspicious, but it's okay. So that's all good. I think it's just the pot, so I don't know what the value of this is, so we're going to have to remove it, and I'll see if I have one. And if we can't find the value, then we're going to have to test it. Okay, here we go. Okay, folks, so what we got to do is we got to heat these three prongs up right here. And it's tough to get them all at the same time and remove the switch, the pot, excuse me. So what most people use is something called a solder sucker. But I'm going to show you an easy way to do this, if I can get in here and do it without obstructing the view. So what I like to do is heat that up a little bit, and I take a toothbrush, kind of wet it down, and once it gets hot, you can just kind of brush the solder right out of there, and it works pretty good. I know it's tough to see this, but I'm doing my best here so you guys can get a nice close view of it. Okay, so switch hands, and we're going to repeat the process. We're just going to get that hot, and it's tough to do this. My field of vision isn't that great here. Okay, so you can see it took the solder off. I might have to hit these other ones a little bit more. It just takes a second. Whoops, sorry about the bump on the camera. Okay, so that one looked pretty clean. Get this one hot again. And one more time over here. That don't look too bad. We may have to heat one of them up or something when we pull it, but okay, I think we got it pretty close now. I'm going to take you out of the camera stand and give you a nice peek at it here. Okay, we got a little bit more, but you can see it's cleaned most of it off, which is great. So I may do one more small round just to make sure I get all this stuff, especially that middle lug. You got to get it off the actual probe that we're unhooking from the pot, because if you don't, it won't go down through the hole. Okay, so that's the next step, and I'm going to probably do it off camera so I can get in there and do a nice job. Okay folks, so I got it out of there. As you can see, it come out nice and clean, no issues. You can see daylight through all the holes. I just want to mention this: if you guys are ever removing anything from a circuit board here, okay, you got to make sure that, especially a pot like this, okay, you got all 3 points here are soldered and hooked into this. So when you pull it out, if they're not all molten or liquefied at the same time, it's not going to come out. One's going to stick, and what will end up happening is this: you see these little lines in the circuit board. Those are called traces. Okay, if you don't get that hot and get that solder away from these 3 pins here, what happens is when you pull the pot out, you'll actually pull some of the trace with it, and it'll be hooked to your pin on your pot. Then you got problems. You don't want that. So just take it the way I just showed you. Use a toothbrush or get a solder removal tool, and then work good too. I seem to have pretty decent luck this way, and I don't have to heat it up that long to do it. And it's just a little tedious for me to try to get the solder removal tool in there, and and film and all that too. So, but this does work good. As you can see, them come out of there nice, no issues. Now we can see what it is. It's an A50K pot. So I got to look and see if I've got any 50s. I'm not sure if I do. If I do, what we'll end up doing is just putting this back in and flowing some solder across all 3 pins, and we should be good to go. This pot does feel it's really sticky, and just when you stop in one spot, it's hard to even move it. So we're going to change it anyway. We took it out. We're going to put a new one right back in if we have one. If not, then we'll order one. The other thing you could do, possibly, if you had a pot that didn't have the pins, you could solder on some short wire leads and strip the wire and poke it up through the circuit board and then solder that on. Either way would work, but I'd just as soon have the pot hooked to it like they had it, just for value reasons and just because. Okay, I'm going to see what I got here for pots. Okay, folks, well, I don't have a 50K. I found some 10s and some 1Ks, stuff that I was using for pedal builds and stuff, but I didn't have a 50K, so I'm going to have to order one. I definitely want to put the right one back in it. However, I was looking the circuit over a little bit, and these 2 resistors, I just spread that apart and made a gap in between them. It almost looked like they were touching. That could have played a factor in it, but I really think it's just the potentiometer more than anything. But it's always good to look this stuff over, even from the factory, and just make sure nothing's touching. Sometimes they put like little pieces of plastic, almost like gas line on there, just to shield them. so they're not touching, but everything looks pretty decent that way. I did notice all these switches are hooked to this circuit board as well. We had a volume pod hooked right in them 3 holes, and then it does come out to at the end of the chain, it comes out to this pot, and that's in between this and the jack. So that pretty much controls the blend and the boost circuit from what I can see. And this is a tone here. I can tell because it does have a capacitor hooked to the back of it. So that's got one tone, like a blender for the boost circuit, and a volume. From what I can see, just looking at the wiring briefly here, not a crazy tough circuit, but I'm not really a fan of this design with the pot there, really. I mean, that's kind of tedious to have to change a pot and rip all this out, but it is what it is. They didn't make anything removable, even this. You can buy a socket for these, so you can pull it out and put a different one in. You think they'd do something for that kind of a pot too, really, make it easier to change. That's for sure. But in any case, we're going to order a new one, and we'll get this thing back up and running real soon. And I'll let you know how it all worked out. But, you know, this is what it is. Sometimes when you make these videos, you don't have the parts on hand to replace them, and you really don't know, you know, what they are until you rip it apart and get them out of there. So I hope this helps. I hope you guys get some use out of the wet toothbrush method for pulling the solder off. That works really good. It works good for me, at least, and it's easier. At least I find it's easier than trying to use a solder removal tool and hold on to the piece sometimes. You know, it's just an extra step. So anyway, guys, we'll be making another video on this. Like I said, as soon as I get the pot, we'll solder it back in, and I think we're going to be good to go. Like I said, this pot here was in pretty rough shape, and it's really sticky. If you stop in one place, it will actually just stay there, and it's really difficult to move it after it's been stationary just for a second. So anyway, I thought I'd show you the internals on one of these. Kind of a crazy guitar, but nonetheless, it is a nice sounding guitar, and it plays really well too. So if that's all it is to fix it, that'll be great. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the design, but, you know, usually you probably wouldn't have to change that for quite a few years anyway. So in any case, it's not a big deal. We got the old one out, and we can certainly put a new one in. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you real soon. Be good. Okie doke.